beautiful people. Listen, it's another great day, and I have another great guest. You know we bring on the best. So if this is your first time joining us, I want to welcome you out. I'm Chisa Penix Brown. I am the Chief Curator of Give It to the People, and we are a mental wealth company that is focused on helping you to get your mind right and your money right. And we do this live stream typically every Monday from 12 p.m. to 12:30 Eastern Time to introduce businesses to you that you may not have known. So we focus on BIPOC and women-owned businesses, which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And we always bring somebody fabulous out, and we also bring out people who support those organizations. So they may not fall into that category, but as long as they're like an entrepreneurial support organization, then we definitely want to bring those people on too, because our goal is to build a better community, right? To let people know what's happening. And this may be your next person that you spend money with. This may be the person that you recommend to somebody else. And this person that I have right here, listen, we met years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we did meet at Toastmasters. And she is just one of those poised and just beautiful people with great energy. And so without further ado, I'm going to be introducing you to Dr. Sheila Gothard today. Sheila! Hey! So
How
listen,
are you?
I am wonderful. And I always put down, I said, Sheila has got to be one of the biggest supporters of Give It to the People and prior to Give It to the People Lady Business, because listen, when we go live, she will be on, she'll be checking, she'll watch stuff. And so, you know, Sheila is one of those people that you can definitely count on. So I just want to thank you from the beginning, just for all of your support over the years. And I am correct though, that we did meet in Toastmasters, right?
That's absolutely correct.
Yes. Now, last night, Sheila sent me a video of her grandbaby doing her Easter speech, y'all. She was doing the Easter speech. And she said, this is a future Toastmaster.
Future Toastmaster.
I could not say anything if I didn't say something about the grandbaby today, because, you know, I named your episode The Change of Leadership.
Yes.
And I felt like that was appropriate for you because over the years, you continue to keep changing and just going with whatever flow that you feel like God has for you. Yes. And your grandbaby is definitely one of those things. So you are building leadership in a little teeny weeny tot. And I just can't wait to see what she does when she gets older.
Yes. She's also one of two grandchildren. Yes. I also have a grandson who's in New Orleans, who is changing the world as well.
Come on, baby.
Yes, and they're both VPs in my company. Okay. They are very integral parts. I figure I cannot make impact on the world unless I make impact at home as well. So future Toastmasters, future scientists. So I'm excited.
No, that's amazing because, you know, a lot of times, you know, people, okay, if you think about it historically, Gerber, right? The Gerber baby, that was like the thing where they were like, get insurance for your kids.
That's right.
And then later on, they came up with, you know, like the 529 plan for saving for college, right?
Right,
right. To me, you are building like the Gothard plan because it's starting from them, you know, from inception and then just growing with them. And so, you know, with your company, what inspired you to create Gothard in the first place, as far as the impact training, the development company? Just tell us that how Gothard Impact came to be.
Well, Gothard Impact was developed out of the pandemic.
Okay.
It evolved because many of you know it started as a company that was named after my father. My father, actually, last name Manuel, he instilled into me education. So he was the one who, you know, as many fathers did, told their daughters and sons that get an education that would never be something that can be taken away from you. So he actually helped finance my education. So I named it after them. And it was you, Chisa, who helped me brand. Yes, you don't know this, but you helped me brand my company. And through many things that I've done in branding, people needed to know who we are. So I've done a lot of things in the community with nonprofits, my organizations, churches, and people knew me as Dr. Sheila Gothard.
Yeah.
So it evolved. And so I named it Gothard. And I knew that some of the things that I was doing was impact. Okay, because if I came in there and I didn't make an impact, then I wasn't doing anything. I was just chit chatting, and we weren't just chit chatting.
No.
Training and development was my thing. I was good at it, and I loved doing it. So that's the name, and it evolved out of the pandemic because that's one of the things that we needed to manage. That's one of the things we needed to lead out of, because this is one of the things that was changing, and we needed to something that we had never done in our lifestyle. So that's how that evolved.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at just the I think that there are a lot of people out there that train on all different kinds of things. But when you talk about impact, I have been specifically, let's say the last 6 or more months, really kind of using that word in relation to how I want people to feel, right? And so I think that a lot of things that happen in the world with some big organizations, and even some people, they want to check a box. Right. And so I've been having these check box conversations where people are just like, no, listen, I'm here to really make the impact. That's you know, and so I always like to think of myself as kind of boots on the ground. And if you remember back in the day, okay, and this is not too far back in the day, but back in the day enough, when they were saying, well, Barack Obama was just a community organizer. And people took that as like disrespect, right? Disrespect. But in order for you to make the impact, you got to organize the community, right? Like they have to know what you need them to do. And so when you looked at that word impact, what does that kind of mean to you in relation to being able to help people to transition from one thing? Because I would imagine that this is a transformative process where you want them to progress, right? We want you to start from here, and then we want you to see where you're going to go next. So what do you feel like that was the word? And how do you help people, you know, kind of get that understanding of it?
Right. Well, you said it best. You're going to impact because you're going to change from one thing to another. So as it relates to leadership, it says this: if your leadership plan is the same as it was pre-pandemic, then chances are your leadership plan is not a good plan. Because you see what I'm saying? Because the world has changed. Because look, the pandemic has shut down the world, first of all. Your people have changed. We've had political division. We've had the supply chain has slowed things down. We've had economic inconsistencies. We've had soaring inflations. You've had high employee turnover. You know, things have changed. Okay. So if your strategies are the same and you're expecting something different, then the impact that you expect out of that has to change. So it has to be something transitional. All right. So you have to impact your people. What does that mean? What does that mean? You have to listen more than you're talking. That's a change. That's a change, because you're listening to see how the pandemic, if you will, or these changes in the list that I gave you has impacted that person, because it may mean that they may not be there. All right.
And so, And so with that, that's exactly where I wanted to go. I would imagine that retention is a focal point of what you're saying, right? And so I would say to you, the person says, well, listen, what strategy are you providing for your clients? How can that help them to retain people and attract them?
Okay. There are many. There are many. One that I'll share today is talking about how you, as I said, as you're listening, giving them strategies. One, get away from what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And what that means is do something different than what you're doing ordinarily. A lot of that means just exercising. All right. So if you're working with numbers every day, something different would be working in your garden. All right. If you're physically limited from walking or running or doing, karate or something like that, getting your garden, making things look different. All right. spiritually enhancing yourself? Okay. What about building up your relationship? Because if your relationships at home is not thriving, then your work is not going to thrive. And people don't think about those things, I think, as it relates to their leadership and what's happening at work. Because if things aren't happening well emotionally, then they can't help build not only their own companies, but them as an employee or a volunteer, because a lot of my work is done around service work.
Okay.
The work that I do helps leaders show up in volunteers, like nonprofit volunteers or faith-based organizations. So those are some of the things that I work with and help retain them.
That could still be excellent, though, for it's a lot of companies out here who have those types of programs where they work with nonprofits, where they go into the community and they do give back. And so the reason I'm even segueing in that way is because we want people to know Dr. Sheila would like you to hire, right? That's why I tell people, listen, we are here doing this because my goal is really when people listen to this, for them to understand that the people that we bring on have a great expertise. Yes. Sometimes, people can't see how it can work for them. Yeah. And I think that you went in a different direction than I was even thinking, like when you said the gardening and stuff. And I think that's great, though, because sometimes we don't think about just changing our routine and giving ourselves like a mental break in the course of our day. And it's like, wow, I mean, that could have changed my whole aspect of how I was approaching things. So I like the fact that you went from a personal level, but I'm also thinking like these big companies, they need to be able to retain the employees. And these nonprofits, people get burnt out all the time, And I know, what would you say to people who are overachievers? Okay.
Oh, wow.
You don't know anybody like that, right? You don't know anybody.
Overachiever. But can I take that a little deeper with the burnout?
Yes.
In order to get burned out, you know what? You have to be on fire.
That is true.
Okay. So when you have a volunteer or an employee and they're on fire for you, guess what? They started somewhere very positive and they end up burned out. That's a problem. So what I do is I come in and help keep them on fire. And that's the impact. All right. Where's Tammy? Tammy?
I know, don't even get mad at me. Tammy is at the office. She is working at the office. She's there today. I'm working from home today.
That's okay. That's okay.
A virtual Tammy.
Virtual. Yes. But that's very important. That's very important because it's critical that we actually understand that we started with something very on fire. Okay. And it could be our leaders or that could dim the fire. So your question, and if you could repeat your question again, because I wanted to make sure that people understood that they come with a very positive force in the beginning.
No, you did that perfectly because my question was just kind of a slight transition from there. So those overachievers, because when you look at, and so that's why I was like, me and you, right? When you have people that are overachievers, and I'm just going to say this from our experience.
Yes.
Both of us are the type of people who will give 110%.
Yes.
But when we see and or feel like people are not respecting the energy that we're giving, then what it starts to do is it does start to do that burnout because we understand that we can spend our energy somewhere else.
Yes.
So for an overachiever who might be getting to that point of burnout or wants to, keep their fire, what's the advice for them? Because they see the vision, they understand it, right? But it's probably the leadership that is the problem. And you and I had a situation where we had a leadership that was the problem. We were doing some excellent things.
Yes.
But how do you keep that energy going? Do you get rid of the leader? Do you leave? And so it's going to be a different answer for each person. But if you believe in what's going on, you want to keep that good energy going, that positive.
Absolutely. Now, this is going to seem so simplistic.
Okay.
It is, but it's communication, but it's the strategy of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I would recommend, and this is what I do, and all my friends know,
Now you know I
my,
gotta listen.
my communication includes asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My friends know Sheila gonna come with 5 questions. All right. I'm an overachiever. I need to know exactly, because I'm an overachiever. I need to know this, that, and the other thing. All right. And then when you communicate in a way that you double communicate and then add to it. All
Mm.
right. So as an overachiever, you can't over communicate. All right. So I'm going to tell you, communicate to you what I need.
Okay.
No, no, I said that wrong. I'm going to communicate what I'm going to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to tell you what I'm about to tell you. So
Mm.
that way, there's no question what we get ready to talk about. So I'm going to
Okay.
communicate what I'm about to communicate.
Okay.
Then I'm going to communicate what I'm going to communicate. Then
Uh-huh.
I'm going to communicate what I just communicated.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I mean, it does to me. I know somebody might be confused, but it does to me. So basically, it's kind of like, well, listen, this is what we're going to talk about. So
This
to
is what we're
me,
going to talk about.
it feels like a setting an agenda kind of thing. And so that
Exactly.
communication could come in the form of an email, a text message. It could come in the form of I'm sitting here, face to face, and we're talking, we're online. And then I'm telling you, this is where I need help. This is what the
Yes.
problem is. And
Yeah.
then, okay, so then the next thing is to kind of, like I say, to reach out.
Follow up.
Now, how can you help make this situation better? How can you help me do this? What do we need to do in order to make, this work? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
From what you're saying. And
That's exactly
I don't think that that's a bad thing at all. I think that
right.
that is a good way to look at, you heard me, right?
Mhm,
Like I
mhm.
basically told you 3 times the same thing.
Right.
It didn't change, I mean,
Right.
sometimes tone can change.
Mhm,
Sometimes time can change, but I think
mhm.
that the way you're saying it, it takes into consideration, was the person listening all of those times?
Well, with the way you communicate, you can communicate firmly.
Mm-hmm.
People like a firm yes rather than a wishy-washy maybe.
Yeah.
When you asked me to be on this program today,
Mm-hmm.
it was a yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you knew I was going to show up.
Yes.
Okay. So we knew what the plan was.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if somebody's like, well, next, right?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Because we have things to do. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We are overachievers. All right. So I think that type of leadership keeps us so that people remain accountable. And I think it's duplicatable
It
as
is.
well.
Yes.
Because they see you, they see me, they see others who are successful in leadership, and it's duplicatable. I know that when I was young in college, I saw my very first African American PhD. She's recently passed away. May she rest in peace.
Definitely.
And a lot of people didn't like her and they didn't want to work for her. But I was attracted to her and I wanted to be her work study student because I wanted to emulate what she did. Do you see what I mean?
I completely see it. Yes.
I wanted to see how she communicated to get things done. All right. Because she made things happen and she was continually being promoted and getting things done. She wasn't mean. I didn't see her as mean, but then, like you said, her tone was great, but a lot of people didn't like the accountability that she put on people because they want it challenged them to do what they needed to do.
But you know what? That's a word. I just want you to know that that's a word right there. And what I have, I said this, so I'm gonna say it to you because I know you
Hey.
can handle it. So we're at this event that we're doing, and one of my friends, he has a angel investment company, and he's Black, and his partner is white. And he said he specifically chose his partner because he knew that there were things that he would have access to that maybe, he wouldn't have access to if he didn't have the white partner. And the white partner was saying the same thing about the Black partner, right?
Sure.
He can give me perspective that I wouldn't have otherwise, right? And so this was a good mixture for them. And, I'm watching shows and stuff like this, and I think about things, and he was just like, this was really great. And, everything, and he comes up afterwards and we're talking, and I said, but do you know what the biggest difference is? And I don't even really want to get into this, but I have to, just because of what you said, because this could be a whole nother podcast. But when you look at white men, they will work together even if they don't like each other, because they will say, we're trying to get this money. I don't like you. I might hate you, but I want to get this money. Black people, and specifically Black women, will be like, I'm not messing with her because of I'm not going to do such and such. And the thing that I think about is there are plenty of people that I probably don't deal with, and plenty of people that probably don't like me for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that you can never say is that she wasn't about her business. You'll never.
That's right.
And so sometimes I think people want you to appease them, and that's not my style of leadership. And so when you said you were attracted to her, probably a little bit because other people didn't like her.
Right.
Immediately identified with that. And I was like, yes, because she didn't get to where she got to from making everybody happy.
That is so right. I'm hearing you. There's people.
I had to say it.
And I'm glad you said it, because there's people probably listening today that can't stand me.
And I love you so much.
Oh, okay. And I know it. And I know it. And we know it. And I say that with humbleness. I really do. I really do. And understand me. And I know that it's people that really don't like me. But I know that that I have an obligation to do what's gifted in me. Yes. And I have an obligation to take people to the next level. But all at the same time, I have to listen spiritually and keep myself emotionally and set up boundaries so that I can show up in my best self. Because we know that as Black women, that people are looking at us all the time. I am so surprised of the number of people, particularly in the church that I go to. It's a large church. Like yesterday, more than 3,000 people were in presence. And I talked to a lady on the phone handling a problem. And I had never seen her before, but But she saw me. She came to me and said, hey, I just wanted you to know that I'm such and such and such, and thank you for helping me with this problem. I had never seen her before, but she found me.
Yes.
Out of all those people. We hugged, and I said, don't worry, we're handling it, blah, blah, blah. We're being watched, so we have an obligation, and we need to show up as our best selves.
Yes, listen, that right there. If you are listening, and it's a bunch of people that are listening today, so there's a question. First of all, you had a good job, ladies. Then we also have you have to keep that fire going on here comment. But this one right here was not something that I was going to ask, and I'm just going to have to ask this. Okay. What sets you on fire?
Young people. Young people set me on fire. First generation college students set me on fire, because I was a first generation college student. I think we talked about this before. That sets me all the way on fire. I had to navigate the education college system blindly. I knew I was going to college, but I had no idea about the process. I had to do it blindly. I was not expected to excel. There was a person who, like halfway through my undergraduate process, helped me get through the process, long story short. And that is my why. That is one of the reasons why I spent more than 25 years in higher education. That's why. That's the reason why I help people today. My daily prayer is that God, don't just give me the vision of a person who needs my help, because I can't see them in my flesh. With these eyes, I can't see them, but through you, you can show me what their need is, because with this, I can't see it. That is my daily prayer. And when it happens, oh my gosh, it sets me on fire. When people on my social media come back and say, you know what, 20 years ago, it was you that helped me get, let me stop, because it's emotional.
It. But that's it. That's it. So when you're specializing and you're saying, listen, these people that want to come to you now, what do you specialize in? So if I'm like, listen, Dr. Sheila, I need to be set on fire. Okay. What do you specialize in so people know this is why I need to come to Dr. Sheila Gothard?
Okay. I specialize in nonprofit organizations that service people. All right. Again, going through this post-pandemic, if you will, I help you as an executive director set up your board for impact. Okay, I help you build your board. I can train you as to develop your board. I can also train and develop your board. I also help faith-based organizations set up your leadership. One thing that's trending there, and what I'm saying is that these are people that doesn't necessarily get paid for what they do. So I give impact. So I train organizations. All right. So I love, because the way that came about, Chisa, is I had to think, who do I like to work with? What have I always done? What sets me on fire? And I've always been in church. I started leadership real little, like my granddaughter, and I love it. I'm not one of those people that say, oh, I've been in church all my life and I don't want to go back. I love church. I love serving. So that's the audience that I work with. So I want leaders of nonprofit organizations to give me a call. Let me come in. I've got this. I'm good at it. I make an impact.
She does. And it makes a huge difference, because you can just feel the energy right there. And I think that a lot of times people have always done it a certain way. I think that people, they kind of consider this. And I mean, I know we're running almost at the end, but you know, you'll do counseling for marriage, right? But is there counseling for the leadership to help people get where they need to go? And so when you kind of think about that, I feel like what you do might be a sense of therapy. Like, even though it's leadership, right? Even though it's making an impact, it's still a therapy, because you're getting their minds together in order for them to be able to focus as a whole entire unit. And that's something necessary, specifically with faith-based leaders, but definitely with anybody that really does want to work with the public, because you need that. So she is the person that can definitely do that. Hold on. Now look, these people are trying to run over our time. Hold on. Now I gotta ask. It said, Sis Roussel said, Dr. Sheila, I have a friend who is struggling with their brand new nonprofit here in Durham. I would love to refer you to her. Okay.
Okay.
So look, tell them where they can find you then, since they try to do these referrals.
Okay. I have a website. It's GothardImpact.com. And you can click on the work with me. I will get that information. You just send your information. You could also send an email to Sheila@GothardImpact.com. I will respond to you. I work individually. I have a strategy in which I work with nonprofits. It's a 3-part strategy. I work with a free consultation, 1-hour consultation. It's an alignment, first of all, and then we set up a strategy and then an action. So that alignment part is free. Then I come through and set up the strategy, let you know what we we can do, because we can't develop what we don't define. And then and then we set up the action. That's the training and development.
Mm-hmm. Okay. She said we can't develop what we don't define. I just
Right.
want to bring that back out because that was one of those little moments right there.
Yeah.
All right. So now you guys know where you can find her. Now, if you want to leave people with one message, one word, one final thought, just about being empowered, being impactful, what would that be?
I would say leap. Leap. If you look at my logo, it was very inspirational. If you go on my webpage, you will see my logo, and it was a leap. Sometimes we stayed stagnant, and we can't do that during these times. Okay, it's a leap, because that leap is very, 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 very important. It will move you to a positive change.
I love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheila Gothard. So you guys know where you can find her now. And I'm sure she'll be at something coming up sometime soon. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you are watching it on the replay, you can always leave comments still. If you watched it live, we appreciate you for being on here live and for all of the comments that came through and all of the questions. We love that. And just make sure that every time that you see that we're doing Give It to the People live, that you show up and show out and you continue to give it to the people. All right. Bye, guys.